So welcome everybody. I'm joined this Thinking Thursday by Barry Stanton, who many of you will recall from his days, certainly at Crayford as a general manager for, I think, probably 2 decades, and then in a latter time at Central Park. And David Mitchell as an owner, techno whiz, and quite a presence on social media. Always lots of interesting things to say. So gentlemen, welcome to Thinking Thursday. Mitch, I wanted to kick off with you, and this subject's a couple of weeks old, but I think you were on holiday and I missed you. But I was looking back to the night that you took Blue Tick George along to Yarmouth for the Georging and took the kids along. And I know you had some kind of quite positive ideas about what it meant to the kids and also what it perhaps means as an owner for that kind of event. What was your take on what actually happened that night?
Well, I can't speak any more highly of Yarmouth and what they're doing there. And when we got the invite, I didn't expect anything like what it was. The kids now, that all they're talking about is going greyhound racing, going seeing pups, going back to the track. Yeah, you know, it's got to remember there was probably say 1,000 people there. The kids on the track leading George along. You know, he's now their pet. He's now the pride and joy. And to remember a retired racer like George, and I think a lot of other tracks should be doing it, especially for the youngsters, to get them down there and get to experience that. And a special mention to Billy Boyle as well. You know, when obviously last year George beat Beaushine Bullet in the final, and Billy was the first person over to say congratulations. Fortunately for Billy, he won the final with Blueberry Bullet, and he got the kids up and they collected the trophy. And as I say, they've never stopped talking about it. It was such a great experience. And, you know, the Franklins, they were just brilliant on the night with George, taking him out for a walk, then bringing him on and getting some photos. There's so much that you can do on social media. It seems to have been well received. And it's something that we should really be doing at other tracks.
Barry, you obviously in your time at Crayford would have experienced those kind of events, getting sort of, owner participation. I mean, you very much got your own son involved, didn't you, in dogs at a very early stage? How do you see it?
Well, I think from a family point of view, it's the greatest thing that I did actually in terms of bringing the family together, because we had several dogs in training, and we used to, you know, obviously go to the kennels every week and walk the dogs, and they look forward to it. And of course, you know, they went to the track with me and cheered our dogs home. So I think, you know, the younger that you can capture the children, the better for the future of the sport. Obviously, from recognition of greyhounds, we always, if a dog won a particularly good competition, we would have the dog as soon as possible afterwards at the track parading. We'd name a race after him or her, and obviously the owners, we would give a table in the restaurant. So we try and include them, but we also did, if there were a family in our restaurant in the evening, say, or on a Saturday morning, which was, I always thought, our best meeting, the brunch meeting, Saturday morning racing. If there were children there, we used to try and take them down to the kennels at some point during the course of the meeting to introduce them to the greyhounds and to the people that worked in the kennels, and try to include them in what was going on. So I think it's absolutely essential if one can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember sort of growing up, going to the Breeders' Festival and seeing some of the stud dogs as they were then, the dogs that I'd seen as a, you know, had been sort of following as a kid.
Yeah.
Do you think we still have a problem in terms of, you know, is it savoury? Is it a problem with kids coming to a gambling sport and involved in that kind of environment?
Well, I mean, greyhound racing, part of the evening is to have a flutter, isn't it? On your fancy, and although children aren't allowed to have a bet, any child that's going there will have an interest in some way, shape or form. And I think, yeah, obviously you wouldn't allow children to have a bet, but certainly that's part of the enjoyment and the excitement of the occasion. So I think it's, yeah, you know, I don't think it's something that you would, unless they have to be supervised, obviously. Can't just let them run free through the stadium, which sometimes happened on a Saturday night, you know, when we were actually crowded and children disappeared onto the terraces. But no, I think as long as it's supervised and it's, you know, and they're encouraged to enjoy themselves, it's part and parcel of the evening out.
Yeah, Mitch, so you say your kids are kind of into all aspects of it now. Obviously the puppies and everything else.
Yeah.
Possibly an opportunity again to get some of their friends involved as well, I guess.
Well, just to echo what Barry's saying, you know, children go to horse racing, and I think what we do have in the sport of greyhound racing is a greyhound is the most amazing pet and animal going. It's the most friendly animal, and it obviously connects to people who have dogs at home. So you see children at horse racing. So the gambling aspect, that I understand people saying that, but I don't really get it, because I mean, my kids were there, and the gambling, yeah, it's there, but it's not something that's forced upon, you know, and they are children at the end of the day. So I think that we do have a unique opportunity in the fact that we are a nation of dog lovers, and if we can get people down there, especially young children down there. And just to touch on what you said about pups, obviously George is at stud now, so he stands at stud about an hour away from me, so he spends half his week there, half his week here, basically. So the kids have been going up there and seeing the pups, and so kind of the development cycle from greyhounds being born to pups to seeing them on the track, and obviously the whole package, seeing the retirement and the care of them. So yeah, I think it's important as young as possible. Well, I say as young as possible, it's very important that we get youngsters involved, as we all were young once and fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, it's not particularly a route I want to go down, but I mean, I have a little bit of the opinion, or very much of the opinion, that being, I don't know, introduced to gambling, not to gamble for young kids, I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing. I think that they understand that, you know, the ups and the downside of it. I mean, I was gambling long before I was allowed to, and I think I learnt my lesson having done my pocket money at a very early stage, where not a lot of harm was done. But certainly when a little bit like sort of people introduced to drink later in their lives, they don't really know how to cope with it. I think perhaps understanding gambling has got something to do with it. And of course, the idea of acknowledging the champions as well, which is nice, isn't it?
It is, because I think sometimes it's forgotten about. A champion comes along and then they maybe go to stud, and then we don't see them or we don't hear anything. Yeah, we see their offspring touching the track, but I think it's vitally important that champions, it doesn't have to be champions. It's some dogs that just capture the imagination. You see some graders that capture the imagination, and they have an affinity with a certain track. Maybe they've run 100 races. But I think it is important not to forget them just when they're going to retirement, because they are retired athletes, and they do deserve, we do deserve to remember for what they did on the track.